Morrison, get your ass back to the ship. That's an order. Chief Engineer Kate Morrison ignored Captain Reynolds' command crackling through her comm, just as she'd ignored the last three. Her magnetic boots carried her steadily across the asteroid's crystalline surface while she studied the anomalous readings on her suit's holographic display. With all due respect, Captain, these energy signatures don't match anything in our database. If there's even a chance of. If there's a chance of what? Finding another dead rock. We're a mining vessel, not an exploration ship. The crew's tired, supplies are low, and we're 3 days past our return window. Kate reached the edge of a massive ice formation and adjusted her helmet's visual filters. The frozen sheets before her sparkled with unusual patterns, definitely not natural crystallization. Sir, I've never seen anything like this. The ice, it's growing in geometric patterns. She heard Reynolds sigh heavily over the comm. You have 15 minutes. After that, we're leaving with or without you. Understood, sir. Kate grinned inside her helmet. 15 minutes was more than she'd expected. The geometric patterns grew more pronounced as she followed her scanner deeper into the ice field. The readings were getting stronger, suggesting something massive buried within the comet's frozen core. Kate switched to thermal imaging, and her breath caught in her throat. Holy shit, she whispered, then keyed her comm. Captain, you need to see this. There's a ship in here. What kind of ship? Reynolds' voice had lost its edge of irritation. Big, really big, at least 3 times the size of the prospector's dream. Kate's scanner beeped insistently. And it's not human. The architecture, the material composition, nothing matches any Earth designs. She heard rushed conversations in the background of Reynolds' comm. The captain's voice returned, tense but controlled. Morrison, hold position. We're sending a second team to verify. A loud crack interrupted him as the ice beneath Kate's feet shifted. She activated her suit's emergency thrusters, barely avoiding a sudden fissure that split the frozen surface. As she stabilized herself, more of the ice broke away, revealing a massive hull of dark metal beneath. Morrison, report. I'm okay, she replied, heart pounding. The ice is breaking up, probably from our scanner's heat signature. But Captain, you need to see this. The exposed section of hull bore deep gashes and burn marks that no human weapon could have made. Kate adjusted her lights and saw something that made her blood run cold. A massive hole torn through what appeared to be meter-thick armor plating. Its edges melted and twisted, as if something had simply pushed through the supposedly impenetrable material. Captain, this ship was in a battle. And it lost. Badly. She moved closer to the breach, her lights illuminating the ship's dark interior. Permission to investigate the breach. There was a long pause before Reynolds responded. International salvage laws require us to report any alien artifacts immediately, and by the time the bureaucrats finish their paperwork, every scavenger in the system will be here. Kate was already preparing her safety lines. Sir, whatever did this damage, whatever was powerful enough to tear through hull plating like tissue paper, don't you think we should know about it before they find us? Another pause. Kate could almost hear Reynolds weighing his career against his curiosity and his fear. 30 minutes, he finally said. Document everything. And Morrison, the moment you see anything moving in there, anything at all, you get out. Understood. Crystal clear, sir. Kate secured her lines and activated her suit's full sensor suite. As she prepared to enter the breach, her lights revealed something that made her pause. Alien writing, etched deep into the hull. The symbols seemed to pulse faintly, as if still drawing power from somewhere deep within the derelict vessel. She took a deep breath and pulled herself into the darkness, not knowing that her next decision would change the course of human history forever. The first body they found was frozen in a running position. Kate's helmet lights illuminated the alien corpse, its crystallized form, preserved perfectly in the vacuum. The creature was tall, easily 8 feet, with an armored exoskeleton that reminded her of a mantis. But what caught her attention wasn't its size or appearance. It was the expression of terror frozen on its face. "Captain," she said quietly into her comm, "I've got a positive ID on our mystery ship." She swept her light across a nearby wall, revealing a familiar insignia. "It's Vexicari." The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone knew about the Vexicari. 3 months ago, they'd appeared at the Titan colony without warning. 2,000 people died in less than an hour. "Morrison, get out of there now." Reynolds' voice was tight with fear. "That's a direct order." "Sir, look at these readings." Kate transmitted her suit's data. "This isn't just any Vexicari ship. It's a World-Breaker-class dreadnought. The kind they use to destroy planets. And something scared its crew enough to make them run." She moved deeper into the ship, following a trail of frozen bodies. Each one showed the same expression of panic. Some had died clutching weapons that could vaporize a human tank, yet they'd died running. "Whatever did this," she continued, "it's technology we need to understand. Because if it could terrify the Vexicari this badly, then it could do the same to us." Reynolds finished. "Damn it, Morrison. You have 1 hour. Find the bridge, download whatever data you can, and get out." Kate followed her scanner's guidance through the twisted corridors. The ship's internal damage was catastrophic, not from weapons fire, but from something that had simply pushed through walls and decks as if they were paper. The pattern was almost methodical. The bridge, when she found it, was a tomb. Frozen Vexicari officers lay slumped over their stations. Kate approached what appeared to be the captain's position, noting how its claws had punctured the metal console in its final moments. "Beginning data retrieval," she reported, connecting her suit's computer to the alien interface. "These systems still have power, minimal, but enough to wait." She frowned at the readings. "That's impossible." "What is it?" Reynolds asked. "The ship's quantum core is still active, running at 3% capacity, but that's enough to power a small city. After all this time." She studied the readings more carefully. "Sir, I don't think this ship was abandoned. I think it was quarantined." Her suit's computer chimed, indicating a successful download. As Kate began disconnecting, a holographic display suddenly flickered to life. The bridge filled with the image of the Vexicari officer, its chitinous armor bearing high-rank markings. "This is Supreme Commander Vexthal of the World-Breaker Dominion." The alien's translated words scrolled across Kate's visor. "To any who find this vessel, flee. What we discovered here must remain buried. The technology aboard this ship, it evolved beyond our control. 3 star systems were lost before we managed to disable it. If you value your species' survival, you will destroy this ship and never return." The message ended, leaving Kate in darkness again. Her hand trembled slightly as she completed the disconnect. "Captain," she said, "I'm sending you the log now. But there's something else. These readings from the quantum core, they're not random power fluctuations. They're organized, patterned." She swallowed hard. "Sir, I think the ship is repairing itself." A distant metallic groan echoed through the corridors. Kate's suit sensors detected a slight increase in the ambient power readings. "Morrison," Reynolds' voice was deadly serious. "Get back here now." As Kate turned to leave, her lights caught something moving in the shadows. Not a body, not debris, but something flowing like liquid metal across the deck plates. She froze, watching as it absorbed fragments of broken technology into itself. The ship wasn't just repairing itself. It was evolving. "You want to do what?" Captain Reynolds stared at Kate across the Prospector's Dreams conference table, his face illuminated by the holographic schematics floating between them. "We need to jump-start the antimatter reactor," Kate repeated, manipulating the display to show the Vexicari ship's power core, but not the way they designed it. "Look at their approach. Brute force, maximum output, no finesse. It's like using a sledgehammer to drive a nail." Dr. Hayes, their resident physicist, shook his head. "The containment fields alone ruled. Would work perfectly if we stopped thinking like the Vexcari, Kate interrupted. She brought up another schematic, her own design. They built everything like a fortress. Rigid, unchanging. But human tech. We build Swiss Army knives. Adaptable. Flexible. She highlighted specific sections of her design. We can use our mining laser arrays to create a precision containment field. More control, less power, but infinitely more stable. The Vexcari never tried it because they're obsessed with maximum output. And what happens if you're wrong? Reynolds asked quietly. Kate met his gaze. Then we all die instantly and won't have time to regret it. The captain rubbed his temples. That's not as comforting as you think it is, Morrison. Sir, Kate leaned forward, her voice intense. That ship is repairing itself whether we help it or not. At least this way we control how it evolves. Reynolds studied the schematics for a long moment. You have 48 hours to prove your theory. After that, we call it in. Kate was already heading for the door. I only need 24. 23 hours later, Kate stood in the Vexcari engine room, surrounded by a hybrid maze of human and alien technology. They'd cannibalized half the prospector's mining equipment to build her containment system. Dr. Hayes monitored the readings from a safe distance, his voice tense in her calm. Power levels at 2%. Containment field stable. Kate, this is actually working. She allowed herself a small smile. Told you, their tech isn't superior, just different. They never considered. A sudden alarm cut her off. What was that? Power spike. 15%. 30%. It's climbing too fast. Kate's fingers flew over the control panel she'd jury-rigged. The system's adapting to our modifications. It's learning. Shut it down. No. Kate watched in fascination as new patterns emerged in the energy flow. It's not fighting us. It's optimizing itself based on our design. This is exactly what we wanted. Power at 60% and still climbing. Hayes was nearly shouting. The containment field is holding perfectly, Kate finished. Because it's not trying to contain anymore. It's working with the antimatter flow, not against it. Look at the harmonic resonance patterns. The engine room hummed with power, but not the brutal, overwhelming force the Vexcari had designed. This was different. Elegant, efficient, almost musical in its precision. Power stabilizing at 75%. Hayes reported, disbelief evident in his voice. How did you know this would work? Kate touched the nearest panel, feeling the subtle vibration of power flowing through perfectly balanced systems. Because humans have been turning weapons into tools since we first picked up a rock. The Vexcari built this ship to destroy worlds. We're teaching it to dance instead. A new alert sounded, different from the others. Kate checked her readings and felt her breath catch. Hayes, are you seeing this? If you mean the quantum signature that just appeared in the lower decks. Yeah, whatever we just did, it got someone's attention. Kate stared at the readings, watching as something impossibly advanced began to materialize in the ship's cargo hold. Their innovation had just attracted visitors, and she had a feeling they weren't Vexcari. Captain, she Kate her calm, remember how we wondered what could scare a Vexcari battleship? I think we're about to find out. The Vexcari warfleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry wasps. 12 battlecruisers, their hull plating gleaming with that distinctive copper-black sheen that had become humanity's nightmare since the Titan massacre. Kate watched them through the derelict's newly functioning sensor array, her throat tight. They didn't even try to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. Multiple targeting locks, Hayes reported from the prospector's dream. But they're not charging weapons. A harsh buzz filled their comms, followed by a sound like grinding metal, the Vexcari equivalent of clearing their throat. When the translation matrix engaged, the voice was deep, resonant, and terrifying in its calmness. I am Supreme War Leader Kexthu. You have awakened something that should have remained dormant. Abandon the vessel immediately. Kate exchanged looks with Captain Reynolds, who had joined her on the Derelict's bridge. He nodded slightly, and she opened a channel. "This is Chief Engineer Morrison. We've modified the ship's systems. They're stable now, operating at parameters your engineers never." "You understand nothing." Kexthu's interruption carried the weight of ancient terror. That vessel was not abandoned. It was imprisoned. The technology you have awakened, it does not merely evolve. It hungers. The ship's lights flickered, as if responding to his words. Kate watched as new patterns formed in the energy readings, more complex than anything they'd seen before. 3 star systems, Kexthu continued. 3 entire systems devoured, converted, transformed. Not by our weapons, but by what the ship became. What it wanted to become. You believe you have tamed it. You have merely roused it from hibernation. Reynolds stepped forward. You could have destroyed this ship at any time. Why didn't you? A sound like breaking glass, a Vexcary laugh. Destroy it. We tried. With weapons that could crack planets. It absorbed every attack, grew stronger with each attempt. This was our solution. Disable it, freeze it, hide it where none would find it. And now, the energy patterns on Kate's display were shifting faster now, forming and reforming in configurations that shouldn't have been possible. She realized with growing horror that they weren't random at all. "It's not just evolving," she whispered. "It's thinking." As if triggered by her words, every screen on the bridge lit up with cascading symbols. The ship's systems, previously dormant or running at minimal power, began activating in sequences they had never authorized. "You have 1 planetary rotation to abandon the vessel," Kexthu announced. "After that, we will enact Protocol 0. "What's Protocol 0? Reynolds demanded. "The detonation of a dimensional charge that will erase this sector of space from existence. We will not allow this infection to spread again. Choose quickly, humans, your lives or your entire system." The transmission cut off. Kate stared at her readings, watching as the ship continued its unauthorized activation sequence. But something wasn't right. The patterns, they weren't chaotic or hostile. They were ordered, purposeful, almost beautiful, she breathed. "Morrison." Reynolds' voice carried a warning. "Captain, look at this." She highlighted a section of the energy pattern. "It's not attacking or consuming. It's optimizing, taking our modifications and improving them. If the Vexcary are so afraid of it, maybe that's because..." A new signal appeared on their sensors, something massive materializing in the cargo hold. The same quantum signature they detected earlier, but stronger now. Decisive. "Maybe that's because it was never meant for them," Kate finished. "Captain, I don't think we found this ship by accident. I think we were chosen." Reynolds studied the readings, then keyed his comm. "All hands, battle stations. We got 24 hours to either save or doom humanity." He turned to Kate. "Morrison, whatever you're going to do with this ship, do it fast. Because when that timer runs out, we're either going to make history or become it," Kate finished, her fingers already dancing across the controls as new possibilities unfolded before her. "The crew is right. You've lost your mind." Dr. Hayes paced the engine room, his face illuminated by the pulsing patterns of the ship's quantum core. "We need to leave while we still can." Kate didn't look up from her work, her fingers moving across the hybrid interface she'd built. "You saw the same readings I did. The ship isn't trying to consume or destroy. It's evolving beyond its original purpose. That's what scares me." Hayes slammed his hand on a nearby console. "Evolution without control, without direction. Who says it doesn't have direction?" Kate finally turned to face him. "Every modification, every adaptation, has been focused on one thing: efficiency, not destruction. The Vexcary couldn't understand that because they never built anything that wasn't a weapon." The ship shuddered, and new patterns of light raced through its corridors. On her display, Kate watched as another system spontaneously upgraded itself, integrating her human design protocols in ways she'd never imagined possible. Morrison. Captain Reynolds' voice crackled through her comm. We've got problems. Half the crew is demanding evacuation, and the Vex-carry fleet is launching dropships. Whatever you're planning. I need 10 more minutes, Kate interrupted, her eyes fixed on a new set of readings. The ship, it's trying to show us something. Hayes grabbed her arm. Kate, listen to yourself. This isn't just your life you're gambling with. If that dimensional charge. The lights suddenly dimmed, and every screen in the engine room lit up with the same pattern. A complex, crystalline structure that seemed to fold in on itself infinitely. That's it, Kate whispered. That's what they were afraid of. She pulled away from Hayes and began rapidly inputting commands. The ship isn't evolving randomly. It's following a blueprint, one the Vex-carry saw but couldn't understand. What blueprint? Life. Kate's fingers flew across the controls. Not biological life. Something else. Something that exists in the space between matter and energy. The Vex-carry thought they were building a weapon, but they accidentally created a cradle. The ship's quantum core pulsed with new intensity. In the cargo hold, the mysterious quantum signature was growing stronger. Captain. Kate her comm. I know what's coming through that quantum portal. The ship has been preparing for them. The real question is, are we ready to meet something that terrified the Vex-carry not because it was powerful, but because it was different? Reynolds' response was cut off by a new alarm. The Vex-carry dropships had landed on the hull. Time's up, Morrison. Hayes moved toward the exit. We need to go. Kate looked at her display one last time. The ship's systems were almost aligned, the pattern almost complete. Everything she'd theorized about combining human adaptability with alien power was proving true, but in ways she'd never expected. Captain, she said quietly, I'm staying. Morrison, don't. The Vex-carry aren't afraid of what this ship can destroy, she continued. They're afraid of what it can create. And right now, it's offering us a choice that they were too afraid to make. She heard Reynolds inhale sharply. Explain. We can run, let them erase this sector of space, and spend the rest of our lives wondering what we missed. Or, she placed her hand on the quantum core's housing, feeling the rhythm of its power. Or we can trust that sometimes the most human thing we can do is take a leap into the unknown. Through the ship's sensors, she watched the Vex-carry boarding parties advancing. In the cargo hold, the quantum signature was reaching critical mass, and in the engine room, the pattern of life the ship had been trying to show them was finally becoming clear. Your call, Captain, she said, but whatever's coming through that portal, I don't think they're here to destroy us. I think they're here to meet the species that did what the Vex-carry couldn't. The species that saw a weapon and chose to make it something more. They emerged from the quantum portal like living mercury, their forms flowing and shifting in ways that made Kate's eyes hurt. The Nexus had arrived. Fascinating, the closest one said, its voice somehow resonating directly in Kate's mind. You've modified our cradle beyond expected parameters. Your cradle. Kate stood her ground as the liquid metal being flowed closer, its surface reflecting the engine room's pulsing lights. We found it abandoned. Not abandoned. Waiting. The being's form crystallized momentarily into something resembling a human silhouette. As we have been waiting. The Vex-carry found it too early, tried to reshape it into a weapon. But you, its surface rippled with patterns matching the ship's quantum core. You saw its true purpose. Heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor, the Vex-carry boarding party approaching. The Nexus being turned its mirror-like face toward the sound. They come seeking destruction, as always. Kate stepped between the being and the door. Let me handle this. We've already proved we can think differently than they did. Let me prove we can act differently too. The being studied her for a moment, then flowed backward, merging with its companions. Proceed. The engine room door burst open. 3 Vex-carry warriors charged in, their weapon arrays humming with enough power to vaporize a small city. They froze at the sight of the Nexus beings. The abomination returns. The lead warrior raised its weapon. The cycle begins. Ag. Stop. Kate moved forward, hands raised. Look around you. Look at what we've done with your weapon. We didn't make it stronger. We made it smarter, more efficient. We took your sledgehammer and turned it into a scalpel. The warrior's compound eyes flickered between Kate and the Nexus beings. You know nothing of what they are capable of. We know they left this ship as a test, Kate replied. A test the Vexcari failed because you could only see it as a weapon. But we saw something different. We saw possibility. She gestured to the quantum core, where human and alien technology worked in perfect harmony. You built this ship to break worlds. We rebuilt it to bridge them. That's the difference between us. When we find something we don't understand, our first instinct isn't to destroy it. It's to learn from it. The Nexus beings shifted, their surfaces now displaying the same patterns as the ship's systems. The lead Vexcari warrior took a step backward. The ship, it chittered. It's synchronized with them. No, Kate corrected. It's synchronized with all of us. Human ingenuity, Vexcari power, and Nexus, evolution. Look at the pattern. It's not consuming or destroying. It's adapting, growing, becoming something new, something better. The warrior's weapon slowly lowered. This is impossible. Impossible. Kate smiled. We took your greatest warship and turned it into a laboratory for peace in less than 3 days. Impossible is what humans do best. The Nexus being that had first spoken flowed forward again, its form now incorporating aspects of both human and Vexcari architecture. This is why we chose them, it said to the Vexcari. This is why we waited. Not for a species that would unlock our power, but for one that would understand our purpose. And what purpose is that? The warrior demanded. To evolve, to combine, to become more than the sum of our parts. The being turned to Kate. Your species took our test and transformed it into something even we had not imagined. The question now is, are you ready for what comes next? Kate looked at the warrior's lowered weapon, at the harmonious blend of technologies around her, at the future taking shape in the patterns of light and energy flowing through the ship. I think, she said, that's the most human question you could ask. The Vexcari fleet opened fire. 12 battlecruisers, their weapons burning like artificial suns, unleashed enough firepower to crack a planet. Kate watched through the ship's enhanced sensors as the barrage approached, time seeming to slow as she worked the hybrid controls. Supreme War Leader Kexthu. She broadcast on all frequencies. I'm about to show you something impossible. The quantum core pulsed with harmonized energy. Human precision melded with Vexcari power and Nexus evolution. As the storm of energy weapons reached them, Kate activated her modified defense systems. Instead of creating barriers, the ship absorbed the attacks. Impossible, the Vexcari commander's translated voice crackled through the comm. No shield cold. Who said anything about shields? Kate's fingers danced across the controls. We're not blocking your attacks. We're putting them to use. The ship's systems transformed the absorbed energy, channeling it through pathways that Kate had designed and the Nexus had optimized. The result was beautiful. Streams of deadly force converted into cascading waves of protective fields that expanded outward, enveloping not just their ship, but the Vexcari fleet as well. What? What are you doing? Kexthu demanded. Showing you a better way. Kate nodded to the Nexus being beside her, its liquid metal form now incorporating patterns from all 3 species. Your weapons were designed to destroy. We've redesigned them to defend. Everyone. Through the viewscreen, she watched the Vexcari ships struggle against the protective field, their weapons useless, not because they were blocked, but because their energy was being redirected to shield the very targets they were trying to destroy. This is the test, isn't it? Kate asked the Nexus being. Not just seeing if we could understand your technology, but if we could use it differently than they did. Correct. The being's surface rippled with approval. The Vexcari sought to prove their superiority through destruction. You seek to prove yours through preservation. Another barrage from the Vexcari fleet, more desperate this time. Kate's systems captured the energy and used it to strengthen the protective field further. The more they attacked, the safer everyone became. "You can't win this, Kexthu," Kate broadcast. "Not because we're stronger, but because we've changed the rules of the game. Your own weapons are now protecting you from yourself. You think this proves anything?" Kexthu's voice was harsh. "You've merely shown that our weapons can be turned against us." "No," Kate corrected. "We've shown that they can be turned into something better. Look at your sensors. The energy field we're generating. It's not just defensive. It's stabilizing your ship's quantum matrices, improving their efficiency. The more you fire at us, the more we can help you." Silence filled the comm channel. On her display, Kate watched as the Vexcari ship's energy readings fluctuated, their crews no doubt confirming what she'd said. "What are you?" Kexth finally asked, his voice holding something new, uncertainty. "We're human," Kate replied. "We take things apart and put them back together better than we found them. We look at weapons and see tools. We look at enemies and see potential allies." She paused, watching new patterns form in the quantum field surrounding their ships. "We look at the impossible and see opportunity." The nexus being beside her shifted, its form now a perfect blend of all three species' architectural styles. "The test is complete," it announced, its voice reaching all ships simultaneously. "Humanity has proven itself ready." "Ready for what?" Kexthu demanded. "For the real challenge," the being replied. "Teaching others to see as they do." Kate felt a smile spread across her face as she watched the Vexcari weapons power down, their ship's systems beginning to resonate with the protective field instead of fighting it. "Well, Kexthu," she broadcast, "ready for your first lesson in human engineering." 3 months after the standoff, Kate stood on the observation deck of the transformed Vexcari dreadnought, watching as teams of humans and Vexcari worked together to modify another warship. The sight still amazed her, mantis-like aliens working alongside humans, their former weapons of war being transformed into tools of discovery. "They're adapting faster than expected," the Nexus being beside her observed, its liquid metal form reflecting the stars. Today it had chosen a shape that blended human and Vexcari characteristics, a living symbol of their collaboration. "That's because they finally understand what they were missing." Kate gestured to a group of Vexcari engineers studying the human-designed control interface. They spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction, never realizing that creation is infinitely more complex and more rewarding. Supreme War Leader Kexthu, now Supreme Innovation Leader Kexthu, approached them, his movements carrying a grace that had replaced his former militant stance. "The conversion of the 7th Fleet is ahead of schedule. Though I must admit, some of my people still struggle with the concept of exploration without conquest. That's why we're not rushing it," Kate replied. "Change doesn't happen overnight, but look at what you've already accomplished." She brought up a holographic display showing their recent achievements. "Your weapons arrays now power shield networks protecting colonial worlds. Your planet cracker beams have been modified into terraforming tools. You're not losing your strength. You're redirecting it." The Nexus being rippled with approval. "This is why we chose humanity. Not for their power, but for their perspective. The ability to see potential where others see only threat." A alert chimed softly, drawing their attention to the main viewport. The ship they'd been modifying was powering up its new systems, its former weapon ports now housing sensors and research equipment. The quantum core, once designed to channel enough energy to shatter worlds, now hummed with the precisely controlled power needed for deep space exploration. "To think," Kexthu mused, "we spent generations perfecting our weapons, only to find that our greatest advancement would come from learning to unmake them." Kate smiled. "Not unmake. Reimagine. That's what humans do best. We take what exists and envision what could be." She turned to the Nexus being. That was the real test, wasn't it? Not just whether we could understand your technology, but whether we could help others see its potential differently. Indeed, the being's surface displayed flowing equations that mirrored the ship's power signatures. The Vex carry found our cradle and saw a weapon. You found their weapon and saw a cradle. The difference defines you. Through the viewport, they watched as the converted ship systems came fully online. Its hull, once designed to inspire terror, now gleamed with the promise of discovery. The newly installed quantum sensors pulsed with soft light, ready to probe the mysteries of deep space rather than search for targets. "We're ready for the first expedition," Kexthu announced. "A joint crew, human insight, Vex carry capability, and Nexus guidance. There are regions of space we never explored because we could not conquer them. Now," he paused, mandibles clicking in what Kate had learned was amusement. "Now we will explore them because we can understand them." Kate placed her hand on the viewport, feeling the subtle vibration of the ship's transformed systems. That's the real power of humanity. Not that we're stronger or smarter, but that we never stop asking, what if? What if this weapon could protect? What if this destroyer could create? What if these enemies could become allies? The Nexus being flowed closer, its form now incorporating aspects of all three species. And what if this is just the beginning? Kate watched as the converted ship prepared for its maiden voyage, its crew of former enemies now united in purpose. They had found a broken weapon and made it something new. But more importantly, they had shown an entire civilization a new way forward. "Well," she said, smiling at her unlikely companions, "there's only one way to find out." The end.